Hi, it's been a couple of days since I posted, and today I want to talk about the visit I had to Yale New Haven Hospital where the transplant center is. First, some housekeeping items. Again, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who has been following me at livingdonorstory, all one word, on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Oh, it goes to Twitter too, but I don't pay that much attention to Twitter, and I think we all know why. So, what I wanted to say was that it's been really great to get the feedback and to hear the support, or read the support rather, from family, friends, people I don't know very well, people I know really, really well. But one thing I also want to point out is that I'm not the only person who's being evaluated to be a live donor for my brother Alex. We have two other siblings, a sister and a brother, who are also being evaluated. They're just more discreet than I am. And maybe they don't like the sounds of their own voices as much as I love mine. So I'm going to take you through the day. I'm going to try and make it not too long, but it was actually a really interesting day. And it started bright and early in the morning at about 8:15, where I was checked right in, and I think the first thing I had was a chest x-ray. Then they take a lot of blood, and I think everybody might have seen the picture of all of the test tubes of blood, and they do a full screening. They test for tuberculosis, they test for hepatitis, they test for your sugar, your glucose levels, they test for cholesterol, and so pretty much everything turned out fine. My cholesterol is always a little bit borderline, which I knew, but the one thing I did learn is that I carry the antibodies for Epstein-Barr. What is Epstein-Barr? Similar to the monovirus, that's the kissing disease, and I just want to point out that I never had that. I never had it in my whole life. But apparently I do, and apparently 85% of all people carry the antibodies for Epstein-Barr. Now you might think, oh, that's really scary. Does that exclude me from being a donor? Well, it doesn't, because 85% of all people have it. Even if my brother doesn't have the antibodies, it doesn't mean that I to him. It just means that his treatment plan is going to be a little bit different. And I think that's what's really remarkable about the experience at Yale, is that they look at every single item on your full report, because it doesn't necessarily exclude you, but what it does is change their treatment in order to make sure that they have the best outcome. One of the other things I learned is that your kidney can actually grow after it's been put in the recipient, which is really interesting. A third thing I learned, which is unbelievable, is that they Frankenstein the donor kidney into the recipient. So the recipient keeps both of his or her kidneys, and then the donors gets put like down in the lower abdomen, kind of below the belly button and off to the side. So they end up actually having 3 kidneys. Here's a picture of what the surgery looks like for me, if I'm actually the donor. See that? 3 laparoscopic incisions, and then 1 incision right here at the bottom, like a C-section incision. And that's the Yale New Haven Twitter handle, @YNNH, and Yale New Haven Hospital is their thing on YouTube. So you can go and look up that stuff, which is really cool. The other thing I learned, which I guess I already knew, is that diabetes is the leading cause of kidney disease. And that's what my brother has. Another thing I learned is that the nephrologist, even though he lacks hair on his head, it apparently all went to his eyelashes, because he has these beautiful long eyelashes, which you probably don't care about, but was really nice. He was the nicest man in the world. And he also has a 14-year-old daughter who doesn't speak to him. So we have a lot in common. So the other thing I learned is that if I'm not a perfect match for my brother, and there are a couple of things that they evaluate on, and there are these things called the antigens in your blood, and you get 3 from your mom, 3 from your dad, or you get 6 from your dad and 6 from your mom. And so I have a 25% chance of having no antigens in common with my brother, meaning, he got 6 from dad and I got 6 from mom. 25% chance that we have 6 in common, so we each got 3 from the same parent, and a 50% chance that we have 3 in common, which is actually really, really good. But that doesn't mean that I'm the best donor for him. So even if I'm not, I may be the best donor for somebody else, and then that somebody else is the best donor for my brother, and it's this whole chain donor thing. And that's one of the things they're trying to do at Yale, is make this chain donor situation. So here is another really cool thing. So you saw, maybe if you were following on Instagram, that I had to have a CAT scan at the end of the day. It was really weird because it was a contrast dye CAT scan, which means they shoot this dye into my veins so that they can see the way things flow through my arteries. But what it does, which is really weird, is it gives you a hot flash. And I'm not there yet in my life, the hot flash there, but they put it in and I'm thinking, I don't feel anything. It's not gonna work for me. Well, I don't get that. And then all of a sudden I felt this weird thing in the back of my throat, and then my ears were hot, and then my chest was all hot, and then it felt like I was gonna pee in my pants, which I didn't do. You'll be happy to know. But that's what it felt like. It was like this whole weird warm thing. And the reason they check your kidneys, which a friend of mine pointed out, why isn't that the first test that they do? I mean, because if your kidneys aren't working properly, then you should just be right out. But really it's to make sure that you actually have 2 kidneys, because they have had instances where people have only had one and never knew it. They also have had instances where a person does actually have 2 kidneys, but the kidneys are fused into a horseshoe. And so they can't do like a conjoined twin kind of operation on it. They can't do it. So lots of different things. They don't always choose the left kidney to take out, but they often do, because sometimes that's the one that's smaller and they leave the larger kidney with the donor. Oh yeah, the whole day I'm worried about. So one thing that can knock you off the list immediately is your BMI. So if you don't know what your BMI is, it's basically the ratio of weight to your body height. And so you can't be carrying too much weight on your frame. It's not good for your heart. It's not good for your organs, etc. The whole day I was worried about my BMI. All day. I'm thinking of all the things. I have perfectly working kidneys. My blood is beautiful. I'm willing. I'm able. I don't have any major health problems, except I'm too fat, which I'm not. But I was, all day, I was worried about it. Every meeting that I had. I was like, what if my BMI? And they all look at you like, shut up already, you're fine. So they're not really like that. They're actually the nicest people you'd ever want to meet, but I was definitely very concerned about it. It turned out it would be fine. And one of the last things I learned, which I think is also really important, should you decide to be a living donor, they want to make sure that as the donor, your expectations for the outcome are kept in check. In the business world, we call it managing expectations, so that the people who want you to do the work don't think that you're a superstar, even if you are. And don't expect superstar, superhuman results. So the doctor, nephrologist, which, oh, I forgot to tell you, a nephrologist is the kidney doctor. That makes sense, right? Duh. So he said that in some instances, he's even heard of a case of a person being a live donor as a romantic gesture. He's like, doesn't happen. Just because you give your kidney away doesn't mean that person's gonna marry you or be your best friend or give you $1 million. Doesn't, well, and that would be unethical anyway, because you can't actually donate your kidney for money unless you do it on the down low. No, you really can't do it at all. So this has been almost a 10-minute video, which I had no intention of doing. I guess I'm gonna have to edit it down, but I don't really know how to do that. So I'm probably gonna have to ask my 14-year-old, who's really mad at me right now because I just grounded her, basically because she said I was acting like an asshole. And I don't think that's okay to call your mom an asshole, right? When you're 14? I'm not gonna edit out that part though. I can tell you that much. Let me just make sure. I'm gonna take a look at my notes, make sure there isn't anything else you need to know. Excuse me. Consulting. Saw my note about writing about the nephrologist's eyelashes. Oh, the last thing. This is really the last thing I'll say. So I had an EKG, and that is an electrocardiogram where they monitor your heart rate, etc. I have a very low heart rate, but apparently there was one tiny little value, one of those little spikes, that was, this was so funny, it went to 11. And if you're a Spinal Tap fan the way I am, You think that was really funny, but if you're not a Spinal Tap fan, you have no idea what I'm talking about. These go to 11. Well, mine went to 11, which could be an indication of an enlarged heart. So we all know what a big heart I have. So I had to go and get, what did I get? An echocardiogram. So that's really an ultrasound on your heart to make sure that my heart wasn't big for weird reasons, other than the fact that I'm just a superb athlete. And so athletes actually have bigger hearts. I don't know if that's the case or not, but you lie on your side while they do all this stuff. And then there's this like little secret door in the table and so they can go underneath it. I gotta tell you, the contraptions that they have, it's like science, technology. Where did it come from? It's very cool. So I think my heart is okay. I think we're all okay. And what's going to happen now is that Joyce, who's the nurse coordinator for the transplant center, is going to take all of my information before the donor panel. And then we go from there. So we'll see. Talk to you soon.